for starting a bit late. And to start us off, I'd like to request us to stand up so that we can have the national anthems and the prayer. Thank you very much.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tulilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu.
Thank you very much. I'm going to request Mr. Ian to kindly lead us in a word of prayer. We can stay standing, please.
Let's humble ourselves for a word of prayer. Mighty Lord God, we come before you today to thank you for this morning, to thank you for the deliberations that we'll have today. My Lord, we place this day into your hands, that Father, as we deliberate today, we shall be able to speak about privacy. We'll be able to speak about protection and safeguarding of the rights of different people's privacy, but also we'll be able to contribute to the larger conversation of privacy in the whole world. My Lord, I ask you for good health today. I ask you for action in everything that we do. In the mighty name of our Lord Jesus Christ, I prayed. Amen.
Thank you very much. We can have our seats. So, welcome to this Data Privacy Day 2024. My name is Wilson Biekwaso, and on behalf of the PDPO office, I'd like to welcome all of you, the people who are physically here with us at the hotel, and the ones online. You're all most welcome. I'd also like to send special thanks to our partners, the UN Global Pulse. They've been our partners for organizing this event. So a round of applause for them, please. Okay, now to start off our program, I'm going to kindly invite Ms. Stella Alibatese. Ms. Stella is the National Personal Data Protection Director at Uganda's Data Protection Regulator, the Personal Data Protection Office. She has 25 years experience, majorly in public sector policy and regulatory matters, including over 10 years in ICT-specific experience. She holds a Master's of Laws from the University of London, a postgraduate diploma in project management, a postgraduate diploma in legal practice, and a Bachelor's of Law from Makerere University. She's GAIAC certified. She's also an IAPP certified privacy manager, a practicing advocate, a commissioner of oaths, and a member of various professional associations. Previously, she worked at the National IT Authority as the director, regulations and legal services, and she led the teams in the development of laws, several laws, including the Personal Data Protection and Privacy Act 2019. And Previous to that, she was at the National Social Security Fund as the Corporation Secretary or acting Corporation Secretary, among others. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause for Ms. Stella.
Good morning, everyone. Please smile. Today is a happy day. Many of you here are privacy practitioners. So when we celebrate the Data Privacy Day, it's a wonderful day for us to showcase what we've done, to share our knowledge with all our stakeholders. So I'm really, really happy to be here. I don't know if Wilson also, what he shared should have been private. What do you think? It was quite a lot of information. So good morning once again. My Lord Justice Geoffrey Chiriabwire, the Honorable Justice of the Court of Appeal and our keynote speaker today, my board members, the chairperson and board members of the National Information Technology Authority, the executive director, NITA Uganda, the acting head of office, UN Global Pulse, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you all to this conference as we celebrate the 2024 Data Privacy Day, a day that holds significant importance in our collective efforts to protect the fundamental right to privacy. Today, we also conclude our month-long data privacy campaign under the theme, Stop, Think, Own Your Privacy. Every year, the Data Privacy Month presents us with the opportunity to start the year with a positive reminder of the importance of data protection and privacy. Privacy is a fundamental human right for each and every individual, and in Uganda it is enshrined in our Constitution. And of course, we implement it through the Data Protection and Privacy Act of 2019. This year, our major focus has been on raising awareness amongst the citizens so as to empower them to exercise their privacy rights. We have also moved strides in reminding organizations of their duty to protect personal data that is within their custody. And many of you represent those organizations here and online at this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to update you that in the past year, the PDPO realized a number of achievements, and I want to mention a few. We completed the PDPO online portal. This portal automated registration, renewals, complaints reporting and review, breach reporting, and also has an online searchable register and an information center. By show of hands, how many of us have used that portal? At least to register. It makes things very easy, not so? And it ensures that you get your service without interfacing with a human being, which helps with our biggest vice, not so? So you're able to get your service quickly and at the convenience wherever you are. The PDPO conducted over 100 awareness engagements targeting government MDAs, private sector, civil society, development partners, professional and business associations, institutions of learning, and the general public. We also conducted 14 capacity building sessions for data protection officers. Data protection officers are our contact persons in the various organizations you serve. And at the PDPO, it's very important for us to equip them so that they are able to do their job well and they are able to transfer these skills within their various organizations. Collaboration is at the heart of our efforts, and we maintain strategic partnerships in the privacy ecosystem. These included with the Uganda Police Force, the NGO Bureau, Uganda Communications Commission, Bank of Uganda, Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, civil society organizations such as Unwanted Witness and Defenders Protection Initiative, among others. We also completed 3 compliance audits and also concluded our first breach investigation and published a report that is available on our website. To date, I'm pleased to say that we are almost reaching 3,000 regulated persons, institutions, and public bodies. And you can do a search using our portal to find out if someone is offering you a service, are they actually registered with the PDPO office? Most importantly, in the last year, we also embarked on the development of the office's maiden first-year strategic plan. This plan that runs up to the year 2028 highlights the office's commitment to adapting to the rapidly evolving landscape of data privacy, as well as defining a roadmap for safeguarding the privacy rights of individuals in Uganda. Developed through cross-cutting stakeholder consultations, the plan will guide the implementation of the office's mandate of creating and maintaining an enabling regulatory environment that empowers data subjects and enables data controllers to adhere to the Data Protection and Privacy Act of 2019 and the regulations which were gazetted in 2021. Additionally, the office has prioritized inclusiveness and accessibility to data protection and privacy material for all. This is not only a legal requirement, but also an essential aspect of our dedication to equal opportunities and access. To that end, the office recognized the importance of addressing the unique needs and challenges faced by individuals who are blind or visually impaired, and embarked on transcribing and translating the Data Protection and Privacy Act and the regulations to Braille. This Braille version of the law and regulations that we'll also launch today is an initiative aimed at ensuring that these individuals have equal access to privacy-related information, starting with the law, with the Act and the regulations. By prioritizing the data protection needs of the blind and visually impaired, we aim to create an environment where every Ugandan, regardless of their abilities, can take charge of their privacy and understand and confidently assert their privacy rights. As I conclude, may the discussions and presentations over the course of this conference enable us all to reflect on our individual responsibility in nurturing and developing a privacy-conscious society. Ladies and gentlemen, the journey towards this Privacy Day has been marked by collaboration, dedication, and a shared commitment to safeguarding the privacy rights of individuals in our society. Allow me to recognize our partners, the UN Global Pulse Lab, who are represented by the Acting Head of Office, Dr. Martin Mbanjizi. If you could stand up, Martin. They are the reason we have this beautiful room and our very nice eats, and I welcome you all to enjoy them, who have provided invaluable support towards making this conference a success. I hope I mentioned the policy. And policy, who helped us with the printing of our strategic plan. Do we have a representative from policy? Oh, please stand up. Can we clap for policy for supporting the Personal Data Protection Office? Special thanks go to the esteemed speakers and moderators that shared their expertise and insights during the various talk shows and webinars over the course of the campaign. How many of us in the room attended some of these webinars? By a show of hands. Very good. I also heard from one of my board members that her students really followed those webinars and were able to learn a lot from them. Your contributions shaped the discourse and sensitized Ugandans on data protection and privacy. I acknowledge the ministry's support and participation in the data privacy campaign. The Honorable Minister led the way and officially launched this important campaign. Oh, the Honorable Minister is here. How appropriate when I was thanking the ministry. Maybe I can repeat that. You're welcome, Honorable Minister. I acknowledge the ministry's support and participation in the data privacy campaign. The Honorable Minister, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, led the way and officially launched this important campaign. That afforded the campaign the critical prominence and full weight of government ownership. We are grateful, sir. I also want to express our sincere appreciation to NITA Uganda, the Government Citizen Interaction Center, Defenders Protection Initiative, Stanbic Bank, Diamond Trust Bank, Metropole CRB Uganda, 8 Tech Consults Open Data Institute, Consent Uganda, among others who actively participated in this year's data privacy campaign and amplified our message to reach a wider audience. Let's clap for them, please. And if you're here, you can stand up for recognition. Behind the scenes, I must recognize and commend the tireless efforts of the team at the Personal Data Protection Office. Their dedication and hard work have been the driving force behind the success of this campaign and the various milestones achieved by the office. I'm truly proud to lead such a dynamic and passionate team. Our esteemed guests, I thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules. Your presence here today demonstrates your unwavering support and commitment to the cause of data protection, and we do not take it for granted. With those remarks, I officially welcome you to the conference and now have the pleasure to invite Dr. Martin Gordon Movanjizi, the Acting Head of Office UN Global Pulse, to give his remarks. I wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you for listening to me.
Good morning. I would like to beg to follow the protocol as followed by the National Personal Data Protection Director. Honorable Honorable Justice, Honorable Minister, NITA board members are present, and our guests today. UN Global Pulse, just maybe to take an opportunity to also talk about Innovation Hub. We do work with governments, but also with UN agencies. Our vision is a world in which responsible and inclusive innovation serves people and advances the sustainable development goals. And that's why we are here. That's why we support the Personal Data Protection Office. And I would like to say that we have supported it. We supported this even when it was still a bill in Parliament. We were able to take some members of Parliament, members of some staff of NITA to Mauritius for benchmarking. And we have been supporting and working closely with them until to date. So I would like to congratulate Uganda, but also the Personal Data Protection Office for the different milestones that they have achieved today. Looking at the themes of the Data Privacy Days, the first theme of the first Data Privacy Day was Your Privacy Matters. Last year, the theme was Data Privacy Compliance as a driver for socio-economic development. And this year's theme is Stop, Think, and Own Your Privacy. For me, this speaks volumes. The transition from Your Privacy Matters to Data Privacy Compliance as a driver for socio-economic development and Stop, Think, and Own Your Privacy speaks lots of volumes. Now, with the leadership of the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, but working closely with the United Nations Development Programme, we are also working on a national data strategy, and we believe data protection is very key and in building trust in the data ecosystem. And that's why we are passionate about data privacy. This national data strategy is aligned to the NDP 3 Digital Transformation Program interventions under the Objective 5, strengthening the policy and the policy, legal, and regulatory framework. But it is also mentioned in the national strategy on the fourth industrial revolution. And recently, the digital transformation roadmap that was launched last year, it is also a key item. So we are excited to work with PDPO and also the government of Uganda. The vision of this strategy, of the national data strategy, is a coordinated and vibrant data-driven economy. So this to me also speaks volumes because there is need for coordination and there is need to ensure that everything in Uganda is, all decisions made are data-driven. Yeah, so that is the work that we are currently doing with the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. Once again, let me take this opportunity to thank the Personal Data Protection Office for allowing us to work with them and congratulate them also on the achievements achieved so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Movangizi and Ms. Stella, for those wonderful opening remarks. I do not know if I have the capacity, but I would like to kindly request the Lord Justice Honorable Geoffrey Chinyawire, a Justice of the Court of Appeal of Uganda, to kindly come and give us his keynote address. A round of applause as he comes.
Thank you very much, our MC this morning, the Honorable Minister, representative of the PS. I don't see her, but I see she's on the program. Board members, the Executive Director, Nita, or your representative, the National Data Protection Director, you, the privacy practitioners, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. I hope you had breakfast. I don't hear a response. Or is that an issue of privacy? Allow me to thank the National Data Protection Office for inviting me to speak and interact with you all today. We don't get many of these opportunities. We are locked away in the courts, so it's always good to interact with the users and also have an opportunity to discuss some of the issues that are trending in the country. Also, this area, which is fast evolving, I think there is a lot of space for discussion. I hope the problem with us judges is that when you give us a platform to speak, we speak and speak. But I think I have just about 30 minutes. We'll see how to manage that. I've been asked to give a keynote address around the subject of, or the theme of the Data Protection Day, which is Stop, Think, Own Your Privacy. Now, the subject, if you allow me, of privacy and data protection is increasingly becoming topical, especially in this era of the fourth industrial revolution on the one hand, and the quest for good governance on the other. As we know, the fourth industrial revolution has ushered in a phenomenon which we refer to as the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things has greatly narrowed the space of interaction between all of us. The physical space as we know it has been narrowed by the creation of vital space, which allows for us to be in more than one place at the same time. This is very interesting because physical space, as we know it, has allowed for us to be in our comfort zones. If you don't want to be somewhere, you simply be somewhere else. But right now, the presence of digital tools like Zoom, WhatsApp, Google Talk, Instagram, X, formerly Twitter. I think that's the new name. I think Musk has failed to win the name X because everybody says X, formerly Twitter, so he has failed to get rid of Twitter, has truly made us global citizens. Literally all the services that we require, which at one time you had to line up for in order to obtain what you wanted, is now available online. I think we can all testify to the fact that we all now have the ability to shop online. We have the ability to bank online, to book airline tickets online, to get medical appointments online, and so on and so forth. So you can see that the physical presence, as we have known it, is being replaced by the virtual and digital presence. It is now widely said that nobody wants to know your PO box number. Is that so? Nobody really wants to know it. They want to know what your email address is or what your social handle is. The question then arises, and this we can discuss, whether we are safer in this digital space than we were in the physical space. On the other hand, the Committee of Nations is increasingly calling for good governance within states. And this would include the adherence to principles of democracy, the rule of law, accountability, social justice, equal opportunities, gender equality, and probably more importantly, the protection and promotion of human rights. So, as we know it, the right to privacy has for a long time formed part of what we lawyers would call customary international law. It has been part of it for a long time. At least we know that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights provides that no one shall be subject to arbitrary interference with his privacy, family, home, or correspondence, nor to attacks upon his honor and reputation. That is a codification which is as old as 1948. So everyone has the right to protection of the law against the violation of such rights. The right to privacy is also embodied in other international instruments like the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. But I will not really bore you with a catalog of what these international instruments are. I know this audience is quite diverse. But I will try just to discuss a little bit about the legal framework for the protection of privacy and data protection. So in my paper, I would like to look at the intersection between our digital experience and our experience for good governance. And I'd like us to take this opportunity when we are trying to deal with these two to see if we can, as the theme of this conference does indicate, stop, think, and honor on privacy. For those of you who are students of literature, of which I am one, will probably remember the writer George Orwell, and who wrote in 1949 the futuristic book 1984. I don't know if any of you has read it. Like the director said, show of hands. Now, if you are a privacy practitioner and you have not read this book, you're in the wrong space. Because it is really an interesting book written such a long time ago, which picks up what we may be experiencing today. This dystopian book is set in the mystical country of Oceania and profiles the dangers of mass surveillance, totalitarianism, repression, which are enforced by an elusive leader called Big Brother. Big Brother is said to be always watching. This meant that with Big Brother always watching, there was really no room for privacy for the citizens of Oceania. Many commentators have said that George Orwell in many ways predicted the times in which we live today and the consequences that will result from arbitrary violation of the right to privacy. The question now that is being asked is that, has this leader called Big Brother finally revealed himself or herself in what we now call the Internet of Things, which is always watching us, and we have nowhere to hide? It seems that today, everyone now has access to you, and everybody is therefore watching you. Where then does your privacy stand? Let me give you a few examples. You are practitioners, and I'm sure you have a lot more than I can share with you. So, it is not, and this has happened to me, and I suppose it has happened to many of you as well. It's not uncommon in Uganda for an unknown and anonymous person to give you a call and state that he belongs to a mobile company network and request you to update your mobile phone details with them, or lose your money on your mobile money account, correct? If you have not experienced this, then you're lucky. If they can get to a judge, then surely they can get to anybody. Now, if you comply with this threat and update your details and release your security code, then indeed, these scammers will clear your account on your mobile money. The question, therefore, is, where did the scammers get your phone number and other data details? Who are these data collectors who are going around and looking for our personal data? Now, I looked up some literature on this subject, and I found that writers Andrew Harris of the US State Department, working together with Professor Goodman of the Georgia Institute of Technology, actually long ago expressed concern with the growth of mobile money in African countries, which leaves users vulnerable, where user transparency, collection, transaction of data, and adherence to the law and privacy is poor. So it is not surprising that we are experiencing these things when we have not provided for user transparency, the methods of data collection, and more importantly, adherence to the rule of law. I'll give you another example, which I have experienced through my work in the courts. There's also this big question that has come with the advent of the Internet of Things, and it is called hacking. There are even people who call themselves certified hackers. Now, hacking is really obtaining unauthorized access to somebody's data. In one case of Ivan Gachev and two others versus Uganda, this is a criminal case. 3 Bulgarian nationals were arrested at Stanbic Bank Natete branch, having fixed in the ATM a schema device which would be able to read your ATM card. Now, what it did was that when you put in your card, it would then be able to remove your PIN, which is important data. And therefore, they would be able, when you go away, to help you unpack all that money that you have left there. These 3 people were charged with an amazing number of 33 counts under the Penal Code of Uganda, and I think also under the Computer Misuse Act. I'll not go into that detail. But suffices to say that they earned themselves 6 years of imprisonment. That is, I don't know how many, I can't recall how many people they had been, how many people are victims, but 6 years, as you can see, it's not terribly long. I think they are probably about to get out as we speak. So accessing personal data is not the only target. There's also accessing corporate data. So also the corporates need to be alive to this subject. And again, I'll just share with you another criminal case in which I was involved, which involved Gasta and Subuga and 3 others versus Uganda. Now, this is an interesting case which involved the following facts: that the Uganda Revenue Authority got a sense that their computer system was being compromised. How? They set up internal investigations. And following a tip-off in June of 2012, they established that there was a car which regularly parked against the wall of the Uganda Revenue Authority. In this car were about 3 or 4 people who would then hack into the ASCUDA system of the Uganda Revenue Authority. What were they after? They were simply hacking into the system in order to be able to duplicate number plates. So if a car had been cleared and had been authorized to have a number plate, they would duplicate that, and then 2 number plates of the same number would then be issued to different cars that were similar. Do you remember that experience? Well, if you don't, I can assure you that my sister actually experienced it, driving a car and finding that on the road right in front of her was a car of the same make, same color, and same number plate. She called me and thought that she had gone mad because she was absolutely sure that she was in her car of that color, of that make, and of that number plate. So these are some of the issues that can become problematic. But you see, there are other questions also that arise, especially the big brother question, which involves the state. You see, the state, for security purposes, may decide to eavesdrop or even tap into the data of citizens. Now, Dr. now Associate Professor Ronald Kakungulu Mayambala, in his paper, Phone Tapping and the Right to Privacy, a comparison of the right to privacy and communications in Uganda and Canada, lists a series of alleged phone tapping incidents involving especially members of the opposition, which were reported in the press. One of them, I think, was recently confirmed, included a member of parliament, the Honorable Cecilia Ogao, may her soul rest in peace, who had her telephone conversation with the rebel leader of the Lord's Resistance Army tapped. Now that is all okay until you ask what safeguards are around that kind of intervention. So, in examples of violations of privacy involving private citizens and corporations, I have given you clear examples of how people are able to seek remedies against those who violated their privacy and data. However, the question is, what remedies exist if the alleged perpetrator of privacy is the state? But that is not the only emerging issue. It's not only in the Internet of Things, and I'd like to suggest to you that there are others which are also arising, which have a nexus. So recently, Uganda has successfully hosted the 19th Non-Aligned Movement meeting. Now, interestingly, in a post on X, again previously Twitter, His Excellency the President announced that there would be no compulsory COVID testing for NAM delegates because the delegates did not want their DNA exposed. So now DNA is also now private. DNA is now something that is part of your privacy, is part of your data. So now when you expand that dimension and ask the question that testing of blood is now a major medical procedure in detecting illness, how then do you fit it all in? So now when you look at testing of blood, you're actually looking for DNA profiling without the consent of the person whose blood you're dealing with. As we all know, in this country, Uganda, DNA profiling has taken a significant turn, especially last year, with reports of men questioning the paternity of their children, and this leading to a mushrooming of DNA testing centers in this country. The surge of DNA testing in Uganda has led the Ministry of Health to issue a press statement giving guidelines on DNA testing and accrediting centers which were authorized to carry out the said tests. Now you can imagine this is a physical activity, but if you plug it into the Internet of Things, you can imagine what kind of damage that can do. I'd like to discuss with you as we consider what to think, stop and think about, is this whole concept of privacy. How do we understand it? Some writers have argued that privacy is not universally understood around the world, and perceptions as to what privacy is may vary depending on which part of the world you are. So again, some professors from the University of Pretoria have tried to compare Western and African notions of privacy. And they have argued that Western culture is primarily founded on the political philosophy of libertarianism, which places a strong emphasis on the rights of the individual and to protect them and empower them. On the other spectrum, Africa, the political philosophy is built around communal activities, which places the good of the community, especially during ethical decisions, to the good of the community. So there seems to be a difference here that becomes apparent. Writers, these writers who, when you get my paper, you'll see them, would like to suggest that the difference between the African approach and the Western approach is based on our philosophy of Ubuntu. That is, I am because you are, which contrasts with the Cartesian notion from the West of individuality, which is I think and therefore I am. Put differently, the African mind frame puts the interests of the community ahead of the individual, and so any regulation of privacy based on Western notions will meet some degree of resistance. There's a quote here from them which says, with Ubuntu, individuality is discovered and expressed together with other people and not alone in some autonomous space, and hence privacy, and hence personal privacy plays no role in the Ubuntu context. You may agree or disagree with them, but when you think about it deeply, you then come to remember, and it is a common African saying, that it takes a village and not an individual to raise a child. If that is true, it then follows that the child's parents as individuals and the village as a whole must share the same data of the child, or the parents must consent to sharing the same data of the child within the village. This understanding of privacy would not be accepted in Western or a Eurocentric setup. Personally, I believe that our African societies are evolving, especially as we move towards a middle-income class, where I think the notions of Ubuntu may diminish, but there will be a dichotomy between how it is seen in the urban areas and how it's seen in the rural areas. This notwithstanding, I believe that there are other variables and accelerators that may again impact on this notion of Ubuntu and the understanding of privacy within our communities. I take recognition of the recent privacy scorecard by Unwanted Witness, which points to the said changing landscape in Uganda, which talks about rapid developments in the digitization of government services, financial transactions, and telecommunications, which is cross-cutting against all these type of persons. They further argue that these innovations offer substantial benefits on the one hand, but also on the other, there is concern for security and privacy of data protection. So you can see that there is still this, yes, the dichotomy exists, but as the Internet of Things permeates all our society, then it follows ipso facto that you must get concerned about where you are in terms of your personal privacy and data protection. And the same report actually indicates, unfortunately, that there is low public awareness in this area of data protection. And it is characterized by the following: limited citizen consciousness of privacy risks across all demographics, as I have said earlier above, low demand for accountability through complaints. We have been told that there are very many people who are registered with the office, but the question is, how many complaints are also registered? Because that would show the level of awareness that exists. Of course, in our current polarized political environment, this may also inhibit discourse in this subject. And as I have already spoken earlier, they also agree that there are social taboos which prohibit speaking out. So these are the issues that we must take on board when we want to stop, think, and own our own privacy. Let me address some legal issues. I would like to suggest to you that there is a need for a robust legal framework to supplement individual activism in the area of privacy and data protection. It's not just enough to be an activist in this area. You also need a good legal framework. This legal framework must be strong, not just both, but it should be strong internationally, it should be strong regionally, and it should also be strong domestically. And I would suggest also to you that this legal framework must have the following characteristics. 1, space for the individual to be left alone. 2, the ability to control personal information. 3, the availability of redress for breach. And 4, if there are exceptions, they should be clear and only available when extremely necessary. I've already told you that In 1948, internationally, you had the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, which talks about the right to privacy in Article 12. It's an old article which focuses on territorial communication and privacy and does not really capture all the elements of privacy as we know them today. However, the United Nations Committee on Human Rights has said that references to privacy under Article 12 can be expanded to refer to physical things, data, property, residence, bodily integrity, and autonomy. So we do have that for the whole world. There are a lot more, but I just want to flag that one, so that if you want to think about your privacy, you must know what the international instruments are saying. Let us go to Europe. And we know that in 1981, the Council of Europe came up with the first legally binding treaty on data protection, known as the Convention for the Protection of Individuals with regard to automatic, let's try and get that one off. With regard to automatic processing of personal data. This is the famous treaty number 108. It was signed on the 28th of January 1981 and now forms the basis for the worldwide celebration of the Data Privacy Day. So they are the leaders in this area. One of the things I'd like to flag about this treaty, and that is why awareness is important, is that it is for the European Union, but under its Article 24, any other country who is a non-member of the European Union can also accede to it. There are conditions, but you can see that it is framed in such a way that it's available for both European Union and non-European Union states. I want to refer you to the regional level, and that awareness is also important and will allow us to stop and think. And probably what I've spoken earlier may come together. We have the African Charter of Human and People's Rights, which was adopted in 1981. Now, it is interesting that this charter on human and people's rights for Africa does not provide for a provision on the right to privacy. This is interesting considering that it was written or it was put together after the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. And so the question is, why is it that other instruments internationally pick up this right to privacy and our African Charter does not? Perhaps the answer lies in the discussion that we had earlier, that in Africa, we think of Ubuntu. That is our strength. And therefore, our notion of privacy is limited in that respect. But on the other hand, in 1990, the OAU, now African Union, came up with the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. And in that case, the right to privacy is provided for. It is not in the main charter, but it is in the Charter for the Rights and Welfare of Children. So now we can already see that the village is starting to be compromised in terms of privacy. But it also suggests to us that when it comes to Africa, there's a lot of fear for the child, and this has caused African states to stop and think about the rights of children. On the domestic level, this you know, and probably I should not spend too much time on it. Our own constitution in Article 27 provides for the right of privacy of person, home, and property. Given the time, I will not go through it, but I would like just to say that the interpretation of privacy in our Constitution is in line with the wider interpretation given by the UN Human Rights Committee. And therefore, I think we have the best scope of legal framework on a constitutional level for the protection of the right to privacy. But allow me to make this point clear, and this is where there is some disagreement between practitioners and the state of the law. The right to privacy is not absolute. It is not one of the non-derogable rights provided for in Article 44 of our Constitution. So sometimes when we talk about the right to privacy, we talk as if it is an absolute right. It is not. And in this, I would like to ask you to be aware of Article 43 of the Constitution, which basically provides that there are certain areas which the right to privacy, not just the right to privacy, other rights can be limited. So these would include, it says, and let me read it, in the enjoyment of the rights and freedoms prescribed in this chapter, no person shall be prejudiced from the fundamental other human rights and freedoms of other, shall not prejudice, I beg your pardon, the fundamental rights and freedoms of other people. So the rights of other people should be taken on board. So again, here you have that sense of what? Ubuntu. I am because you are. But public interest shall not permit a political prosecution, detention without trial, and any limitation. And this is the catch provision, which I want you to keep in mind. This is the catch provision, that any limitation of the enjoyment of rights and freedoms prescribed by this chapter beyond, there shall be no limitation which is beyond what is acceptable and demonstrably justifiable in a free and democratic society. That is the big exception that you need to keep at the back of your minds. And therefore, we do have laws. I'll just give you two examples where the rights have been limited: the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2002, the Access to Information Act of 2005. But of course, the most important development in this area has been the enactment of the Data Protection and Privacy Act, which I like to call the DPPA, in 2019. I think this really gives flesh to Article 27 of the Constitution, but I will not discuss the DPPA because really this paper is all about sensitization. But suffice it to say that it gives a detailed legal framework for Uganda for the protection of privacy and data. So if you want to stop and think, this is the place you should be looking at. That notwithstanding, the DPPA provides for rights of persons whose data is collected and aims to protect the privacy of individuals and personal data protected by this particular act. It creates the Personal Data Protection Office. I think all of you know about it. I will not go into that. And I'd like to say that it seems to have done well because I think now it's 5 years old or more? Less, okay. But I think we have made some progress in its development. But I think also we need to know what its functions are. You see, if you want to stop and think, you need to think around this particular area of its functions around Section 5. And these are to oversee the implementation of and be responsible for the enforcement of the Act, to promote the protection and observation of the right to privacy of person and of personal data, to monitor, investigate, and report on the observance of the right of privacy and personal data, to formulate, implement, and oversee programs intended to raise public awareness about the Act, to receive and investigate complaints, this is an important one, relating to the infringement of the rights of the data subject, to establish and maintain a data protection and privacy register, and as usual, perform all such other functions as may be prescribed by any other law as the office considers necessary for the promotion and implementation and enforcement of the Act. It also provides that the office shall have powers necessary for the performance of its functions under the Act, and under subsection 3, and this is the important one which I would like to flag, and I don't know if you're really alive to this, that the office in the performance of its functions under this Act shall not be subject to the direction or control of any person or authority. Are you aware of that? It is a very powerful one. You know, if I want to give you an example of where such similar language it is used, it is, for example, when you're talking about the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. That's how independent it is protected. The same for the Governor of the Bank of Uganda. So Madam Stella there is like the Governor of Bank of Uganda. You cannot tell her what to do. Mr. Minister, take note. Like the judiciary. So the only difference is the other ones are embedded in the Constitution. This one is embedded in an Act of Parliament. So I don't know. We shall see what that means in reality. Whereas the other ones you cannot easily change. Perhaps Stella, if you come too hard, they will amend that section. So I also want to flag under that Act, Section 13, which provides for exceptions to protection of data. That is A, where it is necessary to avoid the compromise of law enforcement power of a public body responsible for the prevention, detection, investigation, prosecution, or punishment of an offense, information related to national security, information relating to the enforcement of a law which imposes a pecuniary penalty, information relating to legislation which concerns public revenue, information relating to the preparation or the conduct of proceedings before a court or a tribunal. So I think you need to be able to balance this against your expectations. But it also provides for a whole series of offenses for violations of its provisions. Again, this is not the subject of my paper, but I ask you simply to look at them. We also have been lucky that there are regulations which have been made to support the Act. And again here, I want you to stop and think about Part 10 of those regulations which deal with complaints and investigations. I think as privacy and data protection practitioners, this is the area which you should deal with. I'd like to say that this Act has not been tested in the courts, so I really cannot give you much of the experience there. I want to make a few recommendations as I wind up. there's clear need to enhance the awareness to the right of privacy and data protection in Uganda. I think the discussion of my paper has justified this. We're not only talking about violations that lead to financial loss, but also the fact that violations are themselves a violation of the protection of human rights, both domestically and internationally. So when you're talking about good governance, then you must talk about also the observance of human rights. I also want to refer you to some of the recommendations which I agree with, which came out in the recent report of Unwanted Witness, which has classified recommendations for data controllers and processors, data protection regulators, policymakers, technology service providers, users, and data subjects, civil society, and academia. I shall not rehearse them, but I say please look at them. But it suffices to say that vigilance on the part of users and data subjects is key to the protection of these rights. Users and data subjects must stop and think before giving away or allowing their data to go into the hands of other parties. They must guard their privacy and not consent where they are forced to lower their guard without necessary information. I believe the time has come ultimately for Uganda to develop a national privacy and data protection policy, but I think I have seen today that a strategic plan is going to be launched, and I think that is a good step in the right direction. As I finish, I think the fourth industrial revolution and the quest for good governance presents a special challenge for Africa and indeed the entire world. Africa is still in a state of transition to a middle-income society, and therefore concepts of privacy and data protections may not be as well developed as those in the other developed countries. This means most of the population, especially in our rural areas, may have limitations and may not rise up to acquire the benefits of the modern legal framework for the protection of privacy and data collection. But I think the establishment of the Data Protection Office is a welcome development and shows Uganda government's commitment to prevent and mitigate this area of infringement of human rights. I think as we rely more on the internet and digital-powered systems, we should remember that there are also duties that come with it. It is still unfortunate that we don't have as much awareness within Uganda, and I think we have seen examples where violation of data privacy has led to loss of money, ruined reputations, violence, pornography, and other risks of intellectual property theft. So I think for the practitioners, it is your duty now to protect this by allowing for greater sensitization. I will leave you with a reminder that the power is in your hands, the power to protect your privacy, the power to protect your data. Remember, when you're clicking, you can either create a benefit for yourself or you may incur a violation. So be vigilant. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Lord Justice Geoffrey Chiawire, for those wonderful remarks. I think we all can agree he's spoken or touched some matters that we all need to stop, think, and own our privacy. A round of applause, another round of applause for me. Thank you very much. So just a few administrative announcements for those that need the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi name is Mestil Guest, and the password is UNDP31. For those that need it, I'd like to recognize the presence of the NITAU board chair, Mr. Alexander Chibandama. A round of applause for him. I'd also like to recognize the presence of Commissioner Geoffrey Agoy from the Ministry of ICT. A round of applause for him. He's here on behalf of the Permanent Secretary. I'd also like to recognize our partners for today. That is the UN Global Pulse. A round of applause for them, please. Policy Uganda, a round of applause for them, please. A round of applause for them, please. Our ministry, Ministry of ICT, NITAU board members present, a round of applause for them, please. And the management and EXCO of NITAU members that are present, I'd also like to recognize their presence. A round of applause for them. In a special way, we'd also like to recognize the representatives from the Uganda National Association of the Blind. A round of applause for them. They're here with us. So there will be a slight change in our program. Right now, I'd like us to be interested in reactions from the first sessions. My colleagues will help me pass the mics around. Data privacy, in my view, is something that we all learn from each other. There is no expert on data privacy matters because it's a forever evolving field, right? So if there are any reactions to the earlier keynotes, I know the Lord Justice Honorable Geoffrey Chiyarwire touched on a lot of matters. For me, what stood out was the issue of DNA and data privacy. We need to think hard next time we go to hospitals, as they're taking off our samples. What are they going to do? And I think that's a very important thing to think about. So if there are any reactions, my colleagues, I'm going to request Ian, help me take around the mics, please. If any reactions, I could take hands. Okay, we have one. My team, Paul, please help me with the mics. Okay, we have two. Okay, I need support. Mr. Becker, if I could indulge you, help me with the mics. We need to help them pass around. Yes, okay, thank you very much. The gentleman, yes.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank the Lord Justice. My name is Chimera Henry. I work with the Consumer Center, Consent, and it's a great honor that the Personal Data Protection Office is organizing this discourse. You will appreciate, like the Lord Justice has raised, awareness is very key, and continuously it is something that we will need to do as a country. Like the Lord Justice was raising, one day, like during the webinars I told colleagues, I just finished moderating a consumer parliament, and I'm very cold, and I just talked about that, and called me, Henry, do you need to change your PIN? And those were the issues that we had just talked about. So just imagine the knowledgeable being victims, what of the majority who do not know? So I would like to continuously lay the emphasis of the importance of consumer awareness. That said, and the beauty that will help to enshrine this and ground it, consumers as the majority, once they are empowered, they have the position and the ability to change the vagaries that are in with the Internet of Things. So the issue of awareness cannot be put aside, and it will need to be continuously emphasized. Once consumers become more vulnerable, the economy becomes vulnerable. The trust and confidence once is lost, the consumers who use these services will lose out, and businesses too will lose out, and the economy. So I would like to thank Justice for the strong words put across, and in particular the other aspect that you raised, a strong national, regional, and international framework. All the aspects that you have put to the elements, but the element of redress is very key. Consumers losing out constantly to the unscrupulous will be something that we need to make sure that confidence is put into the systems. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for his comments. I see the hands of many. Ian, let me just, we're going to do a compressed panel discussion. I think we'll have these engagements after every session. We'll have maybe one or two to sort of balance out the two. So I'm going to introduce the panelists for our panel discussion, and I'll start with the moderator, Mr. Baker Birikujo. He is a lawyer with over 10 years experience, with an extensive background in legal and compliance leadership roles, and focusing on data protection, information technology. Currently, he is the head of compliance and investigations at the Uganda Personal Data Protection Office, overseeing regulatory activities, investigations, compliance, and data protection and privacy and its regulations. Previously, he headed the licensing and legal affairs, so he's quite knowledgeable in these matters. He's trained in AI for policymakers. He's also a fellow of information privacy with the International Association of Privacy Professionals, and holds multiple certifications in data protection and privacy. For his other qualifications, he has a bachelor's degree in law from the Uganda Christian University, and a postgraduate diploma in legal practice, along with professional awards in complaints handling from an international organization called Bond Solon. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to Mr. Baker. Okay. Just a moment. Next for our panel, I'm going to invite Ms. Hilda Kamugisha. She currently leads the Legal Business Solutions Unit at PricewaterhouseCoopers Limited. She has over 12 years experience in providing legal advisory services to several organizations in Uganda, including local and multinational organizations. She advises businesses on regulatory compliance matters for laws in Uganda, including data protection and privacy law. She also advises commercial transactions involving mergers and acquisitions, joint ventures, business restructuring, and business establishment. She's an advocate of the High Court of Uganda, and also holds a bachelor's degree in law from Makerere University. And she's also a member of the East African Law Society and the Uganda Law Society. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause. Okay. I'd like to invite our next panelist, Mr. Rodney Hood Adrico. This is quite a long one, but he's a PhD researcher. He's a seasoned technology, blockchain, cybersecurity, and privacy expert with over 8 years experience in technology and cybersecurity, in both the consulting industry and in practice. He's currently the manager IT audit at the Centenary Bank, and he's currently the manager IT audit at Centenary Bank. Like I'd mentioned, he's a PhD researcher at the Institute of Cybersecurity for Society, or in short, ICSS, of the University of Kent in the UK. He holds a master's in cybersecurity from the same university, and he holds a bachelor's in information technology from Macquarie University. And for his research on cyber insurance during his study as a master's student, he was awarded the Chartered Institute of Information Security Student Project of the Year Project Award across the UK, and was nominated for the inaugural Fred Piper Awards for excellence in cybersecurity. In addition to that, he's a distinguished member, distinguished subject matter expert at the IC Squared, and is responsible for developing questions and reviewing material for the CISSP exam. He's also a member of the International System Security Certification Consortium, a member of the International Association of Privacy Professionals, IAAP, and a member of ISACA, and holds certifications in CISSP, CIPM, CISA, CIRISC, Certified Ethical Hacker, CCNA, CBE, and CSPB. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rodney, a round of applause. I would like to recognize the arrival of the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker, Honorable Tayewa. A round of applause for him as he walks in. And for our third panelists, is going to be none other than Mr. Philip Ayazika. He's the director of programs at Policy, a civic technology collective whose work and research spans across the use and implementation of data and technology to engineer social change. Through his work over the years, he has contributed to research in ways through which Africans can take back control of their data and reimagine new ways of technology ownership. He also has over 7 years experience in designing and implementing data design and technology blended interventions. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Mr. Philip. Okay, Mr. Becker, over to you.
Good morning to you. As already introduced the panel, it's here to talk about today's theme, Stop Think on Your Privacy, but they'll be giving their perspectives from their individual lives. As also the Honorable Justice talked about that privacy within an African setting, you could have a communal aspect to it. But our panelists, I believe they will be going beyond that. So I'll start with the first question with Hilda. Going to the Stop Think on Your Privacy, have you had a scenario where you felt your privacy was invaded, be it at work or personal, and what did you do about it to address it?
Good morning, everybody. I'm pleased to be part of this important discussion today. To your question, Becca, there have been so many incidents, but at the checkpoints, and the Honorable Justice mentioned the fact that the right to privacy is not inalienable. So at the checkpoints, security checkpoints, I've always thought, who has access to this book? As I enter my number, my name, the car number plate, and all those details in the book, I always engage with a policeman, of course, just to ask, okay, do you have controls around access to this book? Who can come and get my number? Or even the address is one of the fields that we fill in. So for me, I feel that's a point of invasion of my privacy. And of course, the controls I've placed myself is to request to put one name or find a way to limit the detail that I put in the book. Yeah, thank you.
if we can hear from the perspective of Rodney, when do you believe you identified a scenario where your privacy you believed was invaded, and what did you do about it?
Thank you. Well, I do want to believe that there are really so many instances where that can happen and where that has actually happened. And just leaning back on the example that has been given by Hilda, and just going around that particular example, you just take a basic example of when we are walking in. So there is a book there. So someone then goes in, you have to register your details, you have to capture your number. But as I'm registering, there are 9 other chaps before me, right? So their number is there, the telephone number is there, their email is there, and I'll probably be able to memorize about 5 or so emails, or memorize 5 or so numbers. So even if someone has access to that book, that is okay, but also the book is there in plain sight. So as I'm registering, I'm seeing quite this number of details of about 10 other people, and if I'm able to memorize that very quickly, I should be able to access that. But of course, that is also an issue that then probably needs to be resolved as well. The second is I see this gentleman taking pictures of me. Again, while we were registering, there was some register, and it said, "Do you grant permission to take photos?" Right? We all signed. There was some form, but then, well, the person registering has that form, right? But does the photographer know that you didn't consent? The photographer doesn't. So the photographer does not know that you actually didn't consent to your pictures being. I'm not saying I didn't consent, right? I did. But the thing is, there's a form there. It is right there. We are putting in information, and the people that are actually supposed to make use of that information per se would say, I would say that they don't have access to information. So the photographer will take as much as they can. And for some events that really have an uncontrolled space, and which is something I've seen before, you'll have a random photographer walk in, he will take pictures, and then when you walk out, there's a large A3 frame of you right outside there. And the guy is charging some exorbitant fees saying. So that has happened to me before, and I just, I was kind to the gentleman, I spoke to him, and I said, I'll not pay you, but we shall just stare at the photo, and that's what we did, and we were able to close that. So from my perspective, I think these are some of the ways in which there's been really terrible evasions over and above the more technological aspects of the same.
Okay, thank you. But since you're at a PDPO event, we'll cross-check to see whether you provided your consent or not. I saw the photographer smiling. So we'll go to Philip.
Thank you, Jacob.
Maybe you can give us a scenario, whether from a work setting or it could even be a personal one, where you felt your privacy was invaded and what you did about it.
Thank you so much. I have, good morning, everyone. I have several of those, but I want to begin with a question to the people in the room. If you could put up your hands, how many of us support local talent, local musicians, and you listen to their music? You people don't? There's an artist who sang a song and said, "I got your number from a COVID register. I like your temperature." Have you heard about that song? So I hope that can give you insight to where I'm going. So people have talked about books here, and we've seen several of those scenarios. Yeah, but I want to focus on, I think for me in public, how my privacy has been invaded, and I like using this example for people that have heard me speak before. When one time I was sick and I went to one of these insurance hospitals to get medication. So I did triage, and then I signed in, and then I sat and waited for the doctor. As I was waiting, because the hospital I was at has a whole chain of branches across the country, someone called me from Gulu saying, and the person works with the hospital, saying, "Philip, are you okay? I've just seen that this and this and this has happened." And mind you, this is a person I dated a long time ago. So I wondered if my issue that I had put in the system was very chronic and probably it was very personal, they would have known. So we've had scenarios like this. You're in Kampala, you go to a hospital, you put in a case, and then probably, I don't know who has access to what information, your medical information. So there's quite a lot of those. But we've also seen that with now the era of TikTok, you'll be moving on the streets of Kampala and someone will randomly just come out of the blue and start recording you. So for me, how I've handled these scenarios, especially the TikTokers and the photographers, someone has talked about photographers, is you quickly give them a crash course on privacy and data protection. Because whereas the concept of privacy has been with us for decades, I think that, in this digital era where every footprint of yours and every information and every activity that you do is being turned into, it's being datafied, I think there's quite a lot of people that probably still do not know more around the connotations around privacy and data protection and what it entails. So for me, I simply give you a crash course about what data protection is, and maybe I'll go ahead and give you your TikTok video. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think that's important. And maybe just one thing I wanted to add on something. How many of us know that if you give me your national ID number without giving me the ID, I can know your gender and your year of birth? How many of us know that? Just by giving me that number, I can know your gender and I can know your year of birth. Because there's a CM where the M stands for male or female, so I can know whether you're male or female, and the next two numbers represent the last two digits of your date of birth, of your year of birth, sorry. So if you're born in 92 and you're a male, you probably have CM92. And if you're female, you'll have CF92. So just by having that number in itself, without necessarily having the full card, also gives some information. But yeah, thank you.
I saw the number of people here who at least were aware of that. And the same with our panel. You've talked about the different perspectives, but I'll go back to Philip. So Philip, very many people have the perception that if they have nothing to hide, then they shouldn't worry about privacy. Is this a misconception? And if it is one, please tell us more about it.
Thank you so much, Becca. I think I want to start my submission with defining what privacy is, how I understand privacy and protection. So when I'm speaking to people about privacy as a data protection officer of my organization, and the trainings that we do as an organization, because we've done a lot of work around, like you said, like the MC introduced, we do a lot of work around supporting Africans take back control of their data. Because we all know that there's been some data extractivist practices and tendencies of global north entities coming to collect our data and using it in the very many ways that sometimes we don't even consent to. So privacy, what is privacy? I think all of us live in houses here, okay? All of us live in houses here, and your house has windows and doors, right? That is protection, for purposes of protection. But then you go ahead and put in curtains, okay? That is privacy, because you know very well that windows and doors alone cannot give you the privacy, because privacy is about confidentiality that you might need, so you go ahead and put in curtains. That is privacy. So when we're talking about privacy, and especially around I have nothing to hide, and I've had a lot of these sentences. I think my mother also keeps mentioning it, and I keep asking her, why don't you have a password in your phone? And she says, but I have nothing to hide. I think we confuse privacy and secrecy, okay? For someone to say, I have nothing to hide, it's like someone saying, I do not care about free speech because I have nothing to say. Does that make sense? So in this age and era of datafication, everything you do, your activity online, you simply go and Google Pampers if you're a father, and when you go to your Facebook, there's lots of ads, Pamper ads. So with this algorithm that you have, with everything and the much data that you put out, because if we spoke about the data points that we have, even when you say I have nothing to hide, really, there's something for you to protect. And I think in the words of, I forget, but I think privacy is fundamental to free society. So if you say you have nothing to hide, really, privacy is not even just about you. I wanted to say that when we are talking about data points And for people sometimes that say, I have nothing to hide, simply sometimes do not understand what privacy is about, or what it is as a concept, or even what age and era we live in as a people. Because in this era, every single moment when you step out of your house, you're literally putting out data. When you go, you open your email, you go to Facebook, Twitter, you use an app. There's a lot of ladies in the room. If you use Flow, the menstrual app, that's all data that you're putting out. Not even to mention, for those that follow the news, in the case of Roe versus Wade, when they used data from some of these menstrual apps to criminalize or even take people to court that had done abortions. Yeah? So every single day that you use an app, everything that you do, you're putting out data. We've seen scenarios where you've gone to buy a Rolex and there are HIV results or someone's academic transcript. This is all data that we're putting out. Lord Justice was talking about DNA. This is all data. There was a case in Kenya where a biometric, I think it's a biometric app, I think crypto app, was scanning people's iris. And then the Kenya Data Protection Office came up to kind of close that, and the parliament had a whole discussion around it. So this is all data. Your fingerprint is data. So for you to say that you do not care about privacy because you have nothing to hide, I think it's a big misconception. Because literally all of us, as long as you're connected, you have something to hide. I just wanted to add to that I think I also appreciate that, Becca, is this the very first National Data Privacy Day that we are celebrating as a country?
No, it's the third.
It's the third, but the physical one.
It's still the third.
Oh, wow. So, but I also want to appreciate, the PDPO. They've done quite a lot of work. To date, I think there's a lot of personal data protection officers that have been installed in organizations. The conversations around data protection are continuing to gain momentum. I remember a time during COVID where we hadn't passed the law, there was no office, and COVID was a very tricky time where lots of data was being collected. But even when, and at the time, because we didn't have a framework that was guiding this data collection, we had a lot of data breaches. And I want to mention this in front of the minister, that the ministry at the time gave out, I think, a fund. It's called the National ICT, I think it's called the NISP Fund, to young innovators to put out COVID tracing apps. I don't know if we all remember that. And then we went as policy and did an assessment on what apps were being put out across the region in Uganda and Kenya, and found out that these are apps that were accessing people's cameras. These are apps that were accessing people's contacts. For people that use Android, you've probably seen a scenario where they're telling you the weather app wants to access your contacts. And you ask yourself, what does the weather app need my contacts? So these are things we need to look out for. If you're downloading a mental health app, a diet app, for people that have smartwatches, how much data are you giving out? So to sum my submission up, I think all of us have something to hide. And just to re-echo, if you say you have nothing to hide, it's like saying you don't care about free speech because you have nothing to say. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. We end our panel now. This is a discussion and a conversation that we'll continue to have as PDPO. Much as the month ends today, the conversation on privacy, stopping, thinking, and owning our privacy clearly doesn't stop today. I thank our panelists for making time, and we can go to the next part of the program. Thank you.
Hello. Another huge round of applause for our panelists for discussing those pertinent matters. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly allow me to invite the representative of the ED, NITAU, Mr. Arnold Mangeni, to give a few remarks. A round of applause as he comes.
Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Minister of ICT and National Guidance, Honorable Minister of State for ICT, the Honorable Minister of State for National Guidance in absentia, present, Honorable Justice, Court of Appeal, representative of Permanent Secretary, Ministry of ICT, Chairperson, Board of Directors, and members of the board present, the Acting Head of Office, UN Global Pulse, management staff of the National Personal Data Protection Office, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. Good morning to you all. My name is Arnold Mangeni, that's Director Information Security at NITA. I'm representing the ED, and on his behalf, I would like to convey his apologies for him not being able to make it for this very important event because of other competing priorities. I'm honored to speak to you today on this very important occasion as we reflect on the significance of data protection and privacy. And I would like to thank all of you for the various inputs that you've made towards the drive of ensuring protection of data and guaranteeing of privacy for the various institutions that you support. My job is very simple. I'm supposed by protocol to introduce and welcome the chairperson of the board of NITA to come and give his remarks.
The Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Thomas Tayeva, our dear Minister for ICT and National Guidance and the Vice Chairman of the National Resistance Movement Party, Honorable Dr. Chris Bayomusi, our Honorable Minister for National Guidance, Honorable Kabianga, our dear Justice of the Court of Appeal that has given the main remarks today, Your Lordship, Justice Kiyabwire, the representative of the Permanent Secretary, Engineer Goy, the board members, my full board members, they are there. If you could stand and they see you quickly. The head of the UN Global Pulse, the management and staff of the Personal Data Office, fellow members, thank you for coming, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm honored to address you at today's Data Privacy Conference. I particularly would like to thank the Right Honorable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and the Honorable Ministers for gracing this day. It is a testament to the importance that you attach to this National Data Protection Office. I quickly wanted to say this is one of the youngest organizations in Uganda. It was, the law was passed in 2019, and the office was established in August 2021. Just in the last 2 years, it has had remarkable achievements. It has set up the entire portal where we can register organizations. And in just 2 years, it has registered already over 2,500 organizations. They are already registered and being audited. We currently, it has in 2 years conducted over 250 sessions to enlighten people about this law, and has received already over 5,500 complaints. Of those, it has already issued over 100 enforcement notices. The most public ones was the one against the Uganda Securities Exchange and Safe Border. And as we speak today, it is we are honored with the presence of the ministers and the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker to launch the Braille version of the law, and also to launch the strategic plan for 2024-2028. We are truly honored, and we depend on your support and we continuing support to ensure that we can make this a sustainable and enriching organization of this country. And we thank you for your support. I would also like to thank Madam Stella and your team for your dedication. Really, the achievements of this Personal Data Protection Office shows that actually this government can work, the organizations work, and it is important that when people make these such achievements, we also appreciate them on such a day. So as I conclude my remarks, Honorable Minister, I would like through you
to send our thanks to this government and implore you that you continuously continue to give us the support that you do, and that through your support in the coming days, you're able to convey the importance to the legislative arm and to the Deputy Speaker of the importance of this office. So finally, I would like to thank you members for coming to attend this important conference. And it is my honor now to invite a representative of the Permanent Secretary to come and give their remarks. Thank you, members.
The Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of Parliament, the Honorable Minister of ICT and National Guidance, Honorable Minister of State for National Guidance, the Honorable Justice of Court of Appeal, the Board Chairperson and Board members of the National Information Technology Authority Uganda, the Head of Office, that's UN Global Pulse, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Geoffrey Ago is my name. Substantively, I'm the Commissioner for ICT Infrastructure Development in the Ministry of ICT. I'm representing Dr. Mina Zawede, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of ICT, who has not been able to be with us this morning. And I've been asked to convey the message, which is a written one. So I beg, I do it as requested, and I do not want to lose even a word because I might change the meaning in that respect. But before I go on my own, I think one of the critical issues that we are grappling with at national level, and also you as the individuals, you as the citizen, is this issue of ask once principle. In other words, we keep going to several institutions, say the banks, they ask information to get registered. You go to URA, not URA, your URA also is there. You go to water, you go to electricity. How can we, or how can this data protection initiative partly help to address some of those? I think very many of us are tired of that. You go to the telecom sector, each and every time you are renewing, not renewing, but getting a line, they ask you all the other details as if you have never provided them. So I think some of those we may need to ably address them. If I could go back to the speech as it is. Good morning to you all. I am delighted to speak to you today as Uganda marks the 2024 International Day on Data Privacy. Today is an important day for all those who are committed to protecting the privacy and personal data of individuals. It's a day to reflect on the importance of data protection and privacy in Uganda and to celebrate the progress that the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, together with the Data Protection Office in NITAU, have made to date. As the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry overseeing the regulator for the data protection and privacy in Uganda, I'm proud of the achievement that the Personal Data Protection Office has realized since it was established in 2021. Specifically, I would like to commend the Office of the Data Protection Privacy on the campaign that they have run over the month of January under the theme Stop, Think, Own Your Privacy. This theme that was selected for the 2024 Privacy Month clearly highlights the importance of individual responsibility in data protection and privacy. Public awareness on data protection plays a pivotal role in empowering individuals to take control of their digital footprint. And as a Ministry of ICT National Guidance, We are at the forefront of Uganda's digital transformation, and today I am pleased to share with you the policy direction that the ministry is taking in regard to data protection. First and foremost, as a ministry, we recognize the need to align our policies with international standards and best practices. As technology continues to advance at an unprecedented pace, our commitment to data privacy must also evolve. We must be proactive in addressing emerging challenges such as artificial intelligence, big data analytics, and the Internet of Things. It is therefore imperative that robust legal framework are developed to balance innovation with the protection of personal information. You may also recall that Government of Uganda, through the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, developed the Digital Uganda Vision to guide intervention for digitally enabled society that is consistent with a transformed Ugandan society from peasant to a modern and prosperous country within 30 years. The vision that is being implemented therefore seeks to nurture an environment of data-driven decision-making through facilitating the collection, analysis, and utilization of data for informed decision across the different sectors. And by embracing data analytics and artificial intelligence, Uganda will be able to harness the power of data to drive evidence-based policy decision-making, optimize resource allocation, and improve service delivery. In the recently launched Digital Transformation Roadmap 2023 to 2028, that is meant to actualize the Digital Uganda Vision 2040, they need to prioritize data governance, privacy, and security to ensure responsible and ethical use of available data for processing is duly recognized in Pillar 3 of that roadmap. Specifically, Pillar 3 of the roadmap here marks cybersecurity and data protection and privacy as a means to provide assurance that digital services are safe, secure, protected, and trusted when in use. We are also cognizant of the fact that the global nature of data requires harmonized approach that allows free flow of information while upholding the privacy rights of individuals. Therefore, by maintaining a robust legal and regulatory framework for data protection and privacy and fully supporting the Personal Data Protection Office to implement and enforce the Data Protection and Privacy Act and its regulation, Uganda will, by 2028, achieve 75% compliance with data protection and privacy legal regulatory framework across all entities. I would like to commend the DPO for translating and transcribing the data protection and privacy law and regulation to address the privacy challenges often faced by visually impaired individuals, especially when conducting financial transactions. Their reliance on such tasks like opening bank accounts or making withdrawals often lead to compromise of their privacy by those with whom they're dealing with. This effort will go a long way in empowering the visually impaired individuals by enabling them to independently undertake and assert their rights to personal data protection and privacy, and hence their autonomy, not only in financial matters, but also other facets of life. In conclusion, the policy direction of the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance on Data Protection is guided by the vision of Uganda, a digital society where privacy is not sacrificed at the altar of progress, but is an integral part of it. We shall endeavor to work with all stakeholders to promote business environment where data protection is not only a legal requirement, but a core element of corporate responsibility. I look forward to our continued collaboration in shaping the resilience and privacy-centric Uganda. And with these few remarks, I would like to invite the Honorable Minister of ICT, Honorable Dr. Chris Baromose, to come and share his remarks in that light. I thank you for your attention, for God and my country.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Agoi, representing the Permanent Secretary. Our chief guest this morning, the Right Honorable Thomas Taiga, Deputy Speaker of the Parliament of Uganda, my colleague, Honorable Kabyanga Godfrey, the Minister of State in charge of national guidance. He has the responsibility of guiding everybody, including you, the Honorable Kabyanga. Our friend, the Honorable Justice of Court of Appeal, Justice Kiriabwire, the Permanent Secretary who has just been here, Commissioner Agoi, representing Dr. Amina Zawede, the PS, Mr. Alex Chibandama, the Chair of the Board of Trustees of NITAU, and the board members present, the Head of Office, UN Global Pulse Lab in Kampala, Madam Stella Albatese, the Head of the Personal Data Protection Office in NITAU. Let me, at this point, stand on the protocol already observed, and I say, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We are talking about data protection, data privacy. Now, the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker and I, as well as the Minister, Kabyanga, come from an area which is hilly and mountainous. And when we were growing up, the mode of communication was for one to stand on one hill and using the natural voice would call out the other person on the other side. And I remember when I was young, a woman was calling her daughter and was saying, now I have left the key under the table, you get it, you lock the house and hide the key under the stone which is below the window. Make sure nobody sees it. But she was talking on the top of a hill, the whole village was listening, and he was telling the daughter that you put the key under the stone, which is near the window outside, so that nobody sees it. You can imagine what kind of privacy, what kind of protection is involved in that. But as we grew up, that was the main mode of communication. Whether you had a wedding and you had to inform relatives, whether it was a death and you have to cross to send a message across the relatives to come and be part of the funeral arrangements. That's how we're communicating in those good old days. But today, technology has advanced. Now those modes of communication are for days of the past. Today, we talk of technology that has made things much more different. I don't have to stand on top of a hill to call across to communicate. We now have radios. You can put announcements on radio. We now have social media. You can send a WhatsApp message. You can make a phone call. You can send an email. And now even smartphones are penetrating. You find even people who didn't go very far in the school, the ordinary people, they also have smartphones, so you can send a message. So communication has changed, and things have become much more easier than they were those days. And that's why we talk of privacy, data protection, because those issues come as technology advances. And therefore, I want to thank the organizers of this meeting, the Data Protection Privacy Office, headed by Stella, for the good work that you are doing, and also for convening us today to be able to reflect on these key aspects as technology advances. And let me appreciate all those who have spoken. Our keynote speaker, thank you very much for finding time and sharing with us and also the panel discussants who were giving us a lot of information. Data protection and privacy is not a subject which is appreciated by many people. So we still have a lot of work to do to create awareness, to educate the public, and also emphasize the importance of privacy as the key speakers have been elaborating. Now we speak of the fourth industrial revolution. We are even transiting into the fifth. And with the fourth industrial revolution, there are many cutting-edge technologies which are getting on board. Very many disruptive technologies that we speak of today. And they continue to change the face of the world. They continue to revolutionize whatever we do. We speak of artificial intelligence, speak of Internet of Things, data science and data analytics, supercomputing, cloud computing, blockchain, and other cryptogenic technologies, all these technologies which are coming. And the question we've been raising is, what is our position as Africa, as Uganda, as we partake and embrace these technologies? Are we going to be left behind the way the other revolutions left us behind? Because when you talk of first industrial revolution, second industrial revolution, third, now fourth, others have been leading and then we follow. I always use an example, like the second industrial revolution is when electricity emerged, use of electricity. But the minister and deputy speaker, we are members of parliament. In our communities, we are still struggling to extend electricity to rural communities. Yet electricity is part of is a technology which came second industrial revolution many years ago. So meaning that advanced communities, electricity is not an issue. But for us here is an issue. Those are demands we still get in our rural communities. For the first industrial revolution, we looked at the steam engine, mechanized production, which we still struggle to catch up with. The third industrial revolution saw the emergence of computers and internet. Up to now, they still ask me as Minister of ICT, when are you giving us internet in these schools, so forth. But these are revolutions which are of the past. Now we are in the fourth industrial revolution. So the question is, how do we move very fast to catch up with the rest of the world as these technologies take shape? And as technology advances, a lot of data, a lot of information is generated. And there is also the downside of technology advancement: cyber insecurity, cyber abuse, privacy issues, confidentiality issues, and all of these remain very pertinent. Now, technology has transformed the way we communicate. Like, as you all know, Uganda has a very young population and it has embraced communication using technology. I have WhatsApp groups of people from my area. They are active 24/7. Even when you wake up at 4 a.m., people are chatting, communicating all sorts of things. Because technology has really brought a big revolution. And a lot of data is generated. A lot of information is generated. So how do we ensure that we protect the privacy of individuals? We protect this data, this information. That informed the decision of government, working with the parliament, to come up with a law on data protection and privacy in 2019, and then we established a dedicated office that is housed under NITAU, but is semi-autonomous in a way to address these concerns. And I would like to appreciate the office, young as it is. It has done a lot of good work. Today the Deputy Speaker shall be launching the strategic plan. They have produced the Braille version of the law to accommodate persons with disability, especially those with visual impairment, and many other achievements. So we are here to celebrate the office because in the short time it has been able to register a lot of progress, a lot of achievements, and we salute you, Stella and your team. Can we give them a big round of applause? Now, the acting PS was raising a point about asking once, and it's a concern which we have to address as government. That you go to hospital, they ask you your biodata information. You go to apply for a passport, they ask you the same. You go for another survey, driving permit, the same, and yet the same government that is asking you. That's an issue that we are addressing because we have resources to address the issue of e-government. And this year, we have provided resources to NIRA to carry out a mass registration of all citizens, including you who are registered, who have national IDs. The exercise is going to be repeated now for all citizens, infants, children, adults, everybody. NIRA is now procuring kits and the necessary devices. And I think if their roadmap continues the way they have scheduled it, mid this year, they should be able to get into that exercise. And therefore, we shall be getting the data, the information about citizens. So our appeal is that Ugandans should know once they ask you the information, it is for a good cause. And that information that you provide, the data you provide, shall be protected and shall be used for the benefit of the country. And one of the areas we shall have to address is what the Commissioner Agoy was raising, that you don't have to ask me my personal data when I'm applying for a passport. When I go for driving permit, you ask me again. The system shall be integrated so that at a click of a button, you can get information about an individual, and we avoid that issue of being asked questions about your biodata everywhere that you go. We shall also be carrying out a national housing and population census. As you heard earlier on when we launched the exercise, the census night shall be the night of the 9th of May. And we appeal to all of you to be ambassadors, because we must educate the public to volunteer the information. The census of 1980, up to now, the results have never been published. Why? Because the people feared to give information, because there was a lot of politics around that time. So if they would ask you, do you own a radio? People thought the thieves would come and steal your radio if you say yes. How many cows do you have? People withheld information, and the exercise didn't go very well. So we appeal to you to be ambassadors and messengers to educate the public that this information which government asks is not to be abused, is not to be misused, but is for planning and budgeting purposes, but most importantly, that data will be protected, and that's the subject we are speaking about today. So I once again want to appreciate the office and the theme for today's conference, remains relevant. That says stop, think, own your privacy. And privacy is very important. For us who are in politics, we value this privacy much more than maybe many of you who are not. Because as you go for campaigns, people can dig all the data and information about you. So if government doesn't come out to ensure that people's data and information is protected, then it becomes a huge challenge. I am a medical practitioner. For us, we learn this in the medical profession, that when you interact with the patient discloses a lot of information about himself or herself. But you are duty bound as a doctor, as a health worker, to protect this information. Otherwise, if I stand here and say, so and so has this medical condition, so and so, that would be unethical, that would be unprofessional. So it becomes very important that we put in place laws, policies, and all measures to protect the privacy of individuals. And I therefore salute the office, and I want to assure you, the Data Protection Office, that you shall continue to enjoy the support of the ministry and the government so that you can be able to do your work effectively. Let me end here by thanking the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of Parliament, first of all for positively responding to the invitation, but also for his passion for issues of ICT. Because we've been together in Parliament, he is our presiding officer in Parliament, but he has passion. He's not only here because he was invited, but he has passion for issues of technology, issues of ICT. And I want to commend you. I want to thank you for the support. At times even he gives us opportunity to raise issues. Say, why are you not raising this? Why are you not saying you don't have money to support you in this? So showing that you would want to see the sector grow from strength to strength. So our partners, our team that is in the sector of ICT, we have a very strong ally in the names of Right Honorable Thomas Tayebga, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, who is also the elected member of Parliament for Ruhinda North in Mitoma District, Western Uganda. So may I request you to put your hands together as we receive a major supporter of ICT, an advocate, as he comes to give us his remarks and officially open this conference. Right, Honorable.
Thank you. The Honorable Chris Badiomonsi. Whenever he invites me for an event I cannot miss, because number one, I'm always assured of security. We call him the bounce of cabinet. And then I remember one day our president was telling us there is a time when the parliamentary commission had Badiomonsi, Honorable, had Emmanuel Dombo, and then when they went to meet him in Parliament and they were asking for in State House, and they were looking at him with very mean faces. And he said, but you people, you mean you brought these giants to threaten me? And then Badiomonsi was like, no, sir. This was a strategic deployment by Parliament that if things fail and we require physical means, we are able to act. So Maury is very, very happy to be here. And he's my boss, for you who do not know. I'm only deployed by the NRM to be a Deputy Speaker of Parliament. And it is SEC which deploys me, and he's a Vice Chairperson for the NRM for Western Region. I'm only a Chairperson for NRM for a constituency. So you can imagine. So my senior brother, Chris, I want to thank you for the invitation. Honorable Minister Kabyang, my senior brother, a very good friend, Justice Kidiabwire, and ladies and gentlemen, I was joking with him that I woke up very early morning to read through the notes prepared for me, and we were discussing how we can support. But I was joking with him that, but your ministry looks like to be a ministry of representatives, representative of PS, representative of ED, NITA. So I said, so how do you work in your ministry? And we were laughing, whereby people send representatives on such an important day, but that's on the right note. I have a friend of mine. He's an ambassador. Whenever he gives you his hand to greet him, he gives you a hand and he says, the government knows what you are doing. That's how he greets you. Now it has gone beyond the government. I think it's the world knows what you are doing. I see very many people, very many senior government officials, especially in security. He's carrying a smartphone, then he has a kabiriti. And I said, no, this is the one which is secure. But knowing this, not knowing this smartphone is reporting wherever he is. He's giving information or that about him, but he's carrying a kabiriti. No, this is Kanoke Kakora. And so in our world, the issue is, what am I hiding? Like me, I'm an open book. I registered formally my complaints. I registered my complaints. There's a call coming in, but I have my notes here, I've remembered. So I registered my complaint on, you mean, being a deputy speaker, does it mean I should be a prisoner? Yeah, people, yeah, even where I'm going to eat, I cannot order my food, you can't. Morris will stay here, we are laughing. I can't enter. You say if I'm to enter a hotel room, you have to come, you scan it. Are they terrorists? No peace at all. So some of us already we are open books. I think what is very important is how we conduct ourselves. But that is totally different from the issue of data. From the issue of data. And I really want to thank you, the Data Protection Office, for the milestones I've had. I don't need to repeat. I received a brief on what you've achieved since the enactment of the law. I really want to congratulate you with the meager resources that you have, with the little support we have given you. You have been able to achieve a lot. And I hope this is a wake-up call to us that through your minister, we should give you more and more support so that you do more for this country. When Honorable Diomunsi talks about my love for ICT and the digital world, you no longer have any option in this world. If you look through the analytics of the phone, despite you switching off everything, you look at what this smartphone, which I can't live without, what it can correct from you. As golfers, you go to play golf, you see what just a golf app can correct. I mean, sometimes you get scared. I just get scared for my children in the future because the analog means which Chris talked about, we still use them among Bachiga, especially when we take our drink, because it is a secure way of warning people who might have visited your home when you were in a bar. So you come swearing Ari that you're coming home. If you meet anyone at your home, it's their problem because you warned Ari. You can't create a WhatsApp group of people who visit your home when you're not in. Say you send in a message. So we still have some analog means, but what is very, very important to me, I want to look at data from a perspective of how we can benefit from it. All these companies that we are admiring, all the big tech, all the billionaires, they're exploiting our data and they are getting money from it. So me, who is processing a budget of 52 trillion, when we have 250 unfunded priorities at 250 trillion in the form of unfunded priorities. For the Data Protection Office, Honorable Minister, I'm trying to see, beyond protecting data, how can we benefit from this data as a country? How can we commercialize this data? Because even the few who are doing it, they are doing it underground. We are not taxing. There are no taxes being paid for most of them. How can we benefit from data? Because when you look at the estimates, I think data is even more than our oil. When you look at the revenues being generated by these companies from abroad, how can we best benefit from it? How can we ensure we are not scared of our data being utilized, but it is utilized in an ethical and safe way for the benefit of this country? How can our data, data, I look at it from an angle of passion. My first business, when I usually remember how I did my first business, we are the people who would be watching football from Chikumi. I was a guy called Sadiq. He had a chibanda of football. Dennis Mudene knows. And whenever Arsenal and Man U was playing, you'd leave home very well knowing that you go prepared for a fight. Either you provoked or unprovoked. You're seated there and the guy punches you because they've scored against his team. So you'd go very well knowing that you're going to fight. When I finished campus in 2005, and I was struggling for a job, what came to my mind is, can't I benefit from my passion? So I sat down, I thought of a concept. I remember how difficult it was to get Premiership fixtures at that time. You would wait for New Vision and Monitor to publish the fixtures because internet was very expensive going to a cafe. You would just go, you pay around 1,000, a few minutes are gone. I think the quickest cafe was around Uganda House. There was an internet cafe around Uganda House. They had a bit of a quicker internet, but the ones in Wandega were a problem. So you would search and it's gone. So what I did, I pitched to several businesses on how I can do a Premiership fixtures chart. In between, I put in the fixtures, then in the sides, I put adverts. And then I distribute in public places, saloons, bars, hotels, campus, all these places. I did an investment of 1.2 million and I made 14 million. Just out of exploiting my passion, which someone else was exploiting. Because every advert, when you see yourself about to punch the other person, Guinness that is running an advert is cracking the numbers, DSTV is cracking the numbers and charging Guinness for your passion. So if someone is correcting certain statistics, correcting my data and exploiting it, how best can I exploit it? I think, Honorable Minister, this is where we need to help our people. Because, you see, the data we are looking at here is beyond the data because we are focusing mainly on digital data. But some of us are even interested in physical data to open the potential of our economy. For example, to open the potential of e-commerce, we have to register addresses of our people. In Uganda, you put on Google search to do a delivery. Google search takes you to Kawempe, over Kutwaranga, Toituka. It stops somewhere. You fall and you find yourself in a church. But I'm going to someone's house. It's because, Honorable Minister, we have not been able to register addresses for our citizens. And what has it ended up doing again? The credit rating of our people. Because the moment I know your address, I can easily trust you. There is a business I run. One of the things we do, we must know your address. If we can't have your address, we can't deal with you because you're going to disappear. The other day I had some Chukwu people visiting me at home and we were discussing business. They told me in hardware business, the moment you own a building where your shop is, or you have been in that place for around 5 years plus, then you run your business on credit. You are supplied. You don't need to invest. All these companies, from roofings to, they will give you. But now, here where you give someone your money and he shifts tomorrow, there are people, they move when they are self-contained. A boot is enough to put all their personal belongings. He picks money today, he puts his personal belongings, he shifts the next day. I was reading an interesting case in Kenya. This man, Davani, who has been brought back from London, who borrowed money from KCB, bought fuel, and then went and stored that fuel from his company and went to London. And they wanted insurance. But since 2008 has been hiding, and they just brought him back. So trust, I can only trust you deeply if I know I can locate you. So, Honourable Minister, the issue of location is an issue of data. This is data that is very, very important. I read the World Bank report. They were talking about the credit rating of African countries and the Global South. The biggest investment that we have that can help to bring our loans down, our biggest security is rand. But our rand is not registered. So if I have rand, but when you want data about my rand, you can't get it. Then we go back to cases of the village. Me, I go to the village and Maurice now, Justice, I'm doing your work. My senior, I'm adjudicating matters in the village. Because one of them, they brought me a case where someone had won in the LC. It was a land dispute. So when they reached in the court, this guy asked, okay, mwene chechibira chachi gechawe harime nkonji zingai. I don't know what you call nkonji in English. That's why I want to translate. I know. Are they stamps? Yeah, I would call it stamps. So this guy asked, me, the land is mine, and I have evidence. If it is yours, how many stamps are in that land? 3 stamps. I said, I don't know. How do you go, you start counting 3 stamps in your land? So this guy said, mine has 16. They went, they counted, they found there were 16. He won a case. So now they were coming back to me saying, can you imagine? Can you imagine? So another issue as a government, and not only ours, but governments, if we don't put a lot of effort on data protection, the biggest threat to governments now and in the near future, we shall not be having bush rebels, we shall be having digital and e-rebels. They are the ones who are going to bring down governments through misinformation, fake news. A very good example is Cambridge Analytica. The case of Cambridge Analytica, what it showed you, how these guys managed to harvest data, managed to develop algorithms that could trace 5,000 character traits of each voter in America, and then personalized adverts targeting you, depending on your character traits, being sponsored by foreign governments, and ended up influencing an election in a country like USA, and someone winning it. You know, when I watched that documentary, I said we are in big trouble. So we must support the Data Protection Office so that these issues don't come to haunt us. In the politics we are doing now, we are no longer focusing on political espionage, especially for the global north, the developed world. Political espionage is no longer a very big issue. Commercial espionage. And that commercial espionage is based on data. It's just having access to very important aspects of data. Having access to your patents. You know? And they replicate in a minute. So I'm looking at a world where governments ignore data protection. I see them falling. I'm seeing the next 10 years to come and plus, elections will be won on management of data. When you read The Modi Effect, a book called The Modi Effect, and you see how Prime Minister Modi of India won the election, it was just managing data. He accessed data, he ran a digital campaign, managed to overrun the Congress that had ruled India for years and years. The BJP was not doing well at all, but the man knew the right chord to strike because he got access to data. So the issue of data is something which we cannot ignore, and I hope we give it the attention it deserves. We give it the focus it needs. Now, my two other issues is the control of these companies and organizations that are utilizing most of this data. If our data was benefiting our Ugandan people, Honorable Minister, I wouldn't be having a problem. But whom is it benefiting? It's benefiting Facebook, it's benefiting Google, it's benefiting, Twitter, X. It's benefiting those guys who are not paying us any tax. I use Google services for my internet because I want high security internet at a personal level. Honorable Gyomunsi is not providing me a highly secured email. So I go an extra mile personally, I pay for mine. But my invoice comes from Ireland. So I pay to Google in Ireland. That's where I pay for my email. But that's not a problem. The problem is that Africa and the global south, we have remained disenfranchised in this sector because of our disjointed efforts towards addressing the concerns of the big tech. I can tell you, if we are to continue sorting those issues as Uganda alone, we cannot manage. And honor my senior, with due respect, if you're going to continue fighting Facebook alone that it should change, it will never. We are so negligible. We are so small. How much do we contribute to their revenues? They would rather leave. But if we could handle these issues at a regional or continental level, and we develop legislation at a regional or continental level, these guys will listen to us. The Europeans have, under the EU, have put up very stringent laws. The Americans have done, and these guys have complied. But for us, because we are disjointed, we are looked at as a very small market. It's Nigeria which took a bold step. I saw they were responding. South Africa takes a bold step, they can respond. But if we took a bold step, for example, at the East African level, and we say we have the same requirements to tackle this big tech, they will listen to us. So, Honorable Minister, from the executive perspective, I would urge you, because you know diplomacy aspect is for the executive, I would urge you that as we, especially now that we are in charge of NAM, G77, we are in the East African community, we can even start from the East African community and we tackle these guys from that aspect of us as a group, not Uganda as an isolated case. That will help us so much, and we shall help to benefit our people. As I come to the conclusion, I was looking into our laws. We have one of the best laws on data protection. So what we need mainly is about implementation, but also the issues of update. I missed the keynote address. I hope Justice, I know, will share with me a copy. I will read through. But these are laws which we made when the era, especially of artificial intelligence, had not yet reached the levels it has reached. The capacity of artificial intelligence to harvest, process, exploit data is so huge. It has rendered most of our laws ineffective. So, Honorable Minister, we need now, I think, to update these laws. I hope the Data Protection Office should be able to analyze with the experts who are here, and we see how best we can. We cannot, what is very clear is, in terms of registration, we shall not be able to keep up with the speed of, of internet and artificial intelligence. These guys are running crazy. It will be very difficult to keep up with the speed, but we should try. And then maybe Honorable Minister can be given even more powers under regulations, so that instead of coming to Parliament all the time, some of this is handled under regulations, and these guys are forced to comply. When I look at really what is going on, especially in the world of artificial intelligence, wow, there is a certain revolution coming. At first I had been excited so much about nanotechnology. That's where I thought the future is going. But then artificial intelligence has come with a bang. I really am looking at elections where someone is going to get my voice cloned and release speeches in my names. You know? I don't know how campaigns are in universities now, because I remember our days, we had to, I can't remember what we used to call it. Sabotage, not sabotage. There's something we used to call it, where you could go, yes, murder and sabotage. But then we transformed soldering. You paint someone a certain color. People even go and do Photoshop, so that was part of soldering, murder, sabotage. Now, what if someone really clones Badiomunsi's voice? A day to election. A night, a few hours to election, it goes on WhatsApp saying he has withdrawn from the election. And his voters don't turn up. That's where we are going. That's where we want to understand. I can tell you, even me, a lawyer, you know, and the problem is, these are things you deal with every day, so you end up taking them for granted. For example, most of you who are doing these transactions in bank, how many read through all those terms and conditions that the banks give you before you transfer money, before you do what? All these websites we are visiting every day, how many of you are reading these terms and conditions? Oh no, Minister, maybe we need to say of reducing them. Because you see, MTN gives you 5 pages of terms and conditions. Man, I don't have time to read this thing. When I'm applying for a loan, my problem, I need to go and pay. But you're giving me terms and conditions, 5 pages. I sign, I go, I need money now. Then we shall sort it. That's the kind of situation we are in. I think we need to go, we dig deeper. We need to review some of these things they are giving as terms and conditions, and then after you come to Data Protection Office, they say, but you signed, you agreed. You signed. Okay? You signed. So we need to dig deeper, we see. Otherwise, wow, I'm thinking about the future. I don't know where it will take us, but wherever it goes, tujakure miracle, we shall be there. I thank you all, and with those very many remarks, please, I'm glad to be joining you to launch the Data Protection Office Strategic Plan 2023-2024, 2027-2028, and the Braille version of the Data Protection and Privacy Act together with the regulations. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Deputy Speaker. Okay. I would like to request the NITAU management, okay, they're already there, so that we can sign off the PDPO strategic plan. And it is okay. Okay. I would like to request the representatives from the National Association of the Blind, right? Did I get that right? To join the Honorable Minister and the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker to launch the DPPA version of the Braille version of the DPPA Act.
So we have launched the strategic plan. Now, the launching the motivation.
Okay, it says the Republic of Uganda, the Data Protection and Privacy Act 2019.
Thank you very much. I'd like to request us to kindly. No, down. As they take the photo, PDPO staff, kindly prepare yourselves so that when they are done, you're here. Kindly just walk up to the front so that when they're done, you're here. The rest of the PDFO staff, Just one more photo. PDV staff, kindly join in. You can. Just one more picture. If some of you can stand up, maybe. This is the amazing team behind the Data Protection Office. All right, thank you very much. I think okay, our VIPs have requested to leave early, but I think we've come to the close of the event. Thank you all for coming. I am going to request the team on sound to help us with the national anthems so that we can close the event officially. Please do not be in a hurry to leave. Let's continue with the conversation. There's also lunch available. We shall pass the instructions of where to find it, but there is lunch available. Please do not leave before having something to eat. And I'd like to request us all to be up and standing for the closing anthems so that we can officially close the event. Thank you very much.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tulilinde, tuwajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Team that has worked on the lunch, kindly give me the information to pass on.